Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
Good content.
All right, I'm gonna try some of the black trumpet dip. It's been baked with Parmesan cheese and the cream cheese, put a little on the French bread like that. It's a little bit hot. It's really, really good. It's really super rich with the cream cheese and then savory with the garlic and the chives, the artichokes, and the mushrooms. So recipe that you definitely wanna try, the artichoke black trumpet dip. So I'm excited to try out the Fib King, Bolitas fibrillosus. Let's cook this thing up and give it a try. One mushroom filling up the whole pan. Look at that beautiful golden brown. Let's give it a try. Good consistency, really, really sweet. Right up there with Bolitas edulis. This is right there with the True King. That is so good. You have to try that. Oh my gosh. You gotta make this dish at home. So Jamie's been finding a lot of cauliflower mushrooms. She's got a big chunk of it here. And we got a big chunk here that I'm kind of just washing to get all the dirt out. But these are like super solid chunks. So these are gonna go into the chicken curry with candy caps. I have chicken and onions. All right, added in the cauliflower mushroom. All right, we got the chicken kind of brown with the onions and the mushrooms, some garlic, and I'm just gonna add in a whole can of coconut milk. Yummy! It's an extra lumpy. This is how you make simple curry. And then I'm gonna add in some rajma masala. This stuff is spicy. Add in just like a cornstarch slurry to thicken things up to make it nice and like kind of gravy-like. All right, and I put some candy caps in this bag. I don't know, maybe a dozen of them or so. All right, stir it on in there. Give it that kind of sweet mapley thing. Works really good with the Indian food, I think. Making a little bit of little pan fried bread, kind of like a fake naan bread to go with the curry. Some Some fake naan bread. All right, we're gonna try out the candy cap curry. It looks like you already started without me.
Yeah, sorry.
The cauliflower mushrooms are like really crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I do like those.
Super good. I'm using a recipe out of the Wild Mushrooms cookbook by Kristen and Trent Blizzard of Modern Forager, who also happen to be a sponsor of this channel. But the creamy chicken of the woods bruschetta is on the menu today. So here I have the chicken of the woods at home, and I'm gonna slice this up into nice 3/8 inch thick pieces. Go ahead and cut off the really tough parts. The young outer edge is usually the most tender part of the chicken of the woods. Then I'm going to combine whole milk and lemon juice. I only have a bottle of lemon juice, but it calls for the juice of a half of a lemon. All the sliced chicken of the woods in there, and I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight. The following day, I'm going to finish cooking this recipe by dicing up some shallots pretty fine, chopping some garlic pretty finely. I'm going to add some butter to the pan, and I'm going to cook the shallots and the garlic until they are nice and translucent. Simmering these in the butter, being careful not to caramelize them too much. And I'm going to pull out this milk and lemon juice mixture with the chicken of the woods and just add it right into the pan. The mushrooms actually soaked up a lot of the milk and lemon juice mixture. I thought it was quite a weird mixture, but it actually smells really good. Now I'm going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes, making sure to get these mushrooms well cooked. A lot of people get GI distress from chicken of the woods because they're undercooked. So, like with all wild mushrooms, make sure that they're well cooked. I'm going to deglaze the pan with a little bit of sherry cooking wine. Go ahead and stir it up so all those little bits on the bottom of the pan come off. I'm going to add in a little bit of fresh sage from my garden, and then we're going to add in some heavy cream. I'm going to bring this to a simmer, stirring occasionally and letting this just all kind of cook together for another 4 or 5 minutes. Then I'm going to add in some cinnamon. This is kind of the special ingredient for this cream sauce. I've made a lot of mushroom cream sauces, but never with sage and cinnamon like this. I have some homemade sourdough bread that I've toasted in the toaster, and I'm going to spoon this mushroom mixture right on top of the crusty sourdough bread. This smells so good. Garnish with a little bit of sage, and you're ready to go. All right, I got this delicious looking toast with the chicken of the woods on it. We're gonna give it the try. Oh my goodness. Honestly, this is one of the best things I've ever eaten. It is so good. It is hot and creamy. It reminds me of chicken. This is amazing. I can see why some people say that this is their favorite mushroom. If they've had it prepared anything close to this, this is gonna blow you and your guests away. A recipe like this will put chicken of the woods in my top 5 list for sure. The cinnamon plays well off of it. I like my little addition of the sage. Kind of gives it this savory twist that is like just a very dynamic flavor bomb in your mouth. All right, got back with the Morels. I'm gonna go ahead and just give these a good rinse. They are pretty dirty and sandy, so, you know, they're not like bolitas, you know, they can handle getting wet. They're not gonna soak up water like some other mushrooms might. They kind of loosen up and drop some of their sand too if they're kind of dirty. I'm going to cook these Morels up pretty simply. I'm just going to make like a butter and green onion sauce, and we're going to serve them on some toasted sourdough bread. With mushrooms like this, I really just like a minimalist approach. So we're just going to saute these, make them really buttery and delicious, and serve them on crunchy toast. I'm going to take out some of these choice ones, and we're going to dry them off on some paper towels. You can cut them in half or leave them whole if you want. I like them just a little bit chopped up into nice bite-sized pieces. Put a little light olive oil in the pan, and in go the Morels. That is some hot oil. I'm going to turn that down a little. We're going to cook these on like medium heat for about 5 or 6 minutes. Most of this is water that's coming out of them, so just a little bit of olive oil to get them started, and then they're going to dry saute all of this water off. I got some really nice sourdough that I'm going to toast. I'm going to very thinly slice some green onion. I'm going to go ahead and add in this little bit of green onions. I'm going to add in a nice dollop of butter. I've got the heat pretty low because I don't want to brown the butter. I'm just making a nice butter sauce with these green onions and sauteed morels. See that nice color on the morels? Yeah, they're getting really nice and caramelized. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and you should be ready. Soaked up all that butter. All right, I got my crusty sourdough bread, and I've got my buttery. So good. Oh my gosh. It's hard to explain exactly what that flavor is. Whew, they're hot. Bon appetit. All right, I think this looks like a good place to do a little bit of outdoor cooking, don't you? One thing about mushrooms in general is that you really can't overcook them. So make sure they get nice and cooked, and just take your time and relax. Let them really Really get cooked all the way through. And it's just going to taste better that way too, and everything can cook together. Doesn't get much better than this. Wild mushroom omelet in the woods. It is so, so good. Loki. Oh boy. All right, this is one way that Jeff prepared the morels. They've been stuffed with cream cheese and smoked salmon rolled in breadcrumbs. All right, I'm gonna fry up this cream cheese filled morel and give it a taste. Look at this thing, it is getting so beautiful. Just wanna make sure it's really well cooked. All right, I think that mushroom is cooked. Here's our fried morel. Let's take a look at what this looks like inside. Crunchy, crispy, full of smoked salmon and cream cheese. Are you kidding me? It's very hot, but I'll tell you, that is delectable. I really like this way of cooking the morels. I mean, what could go wrong? You have cream cheese, you have smoked salmon, crispy breading. The mushroom is somewhere in there. This is an excellent way to do it. Yum. This is really good. what you do is you get some of those chanterelles and then you get that pork steak and it's all just cooked together. So good. I'm going to chop up these lobster mushrooms and just boil them for a while and let that water just boil away before I put in the butter and the onions and then the steak. It also just ensures that they're really cooked well. Now I'm going to cook these up with a delicious steak. I know I do that a lot, but I just love steak and mushrooms, and especially morels. I think they just pair so good with meat. So I've had these stored for a couple of days in this brown paper sack. You can keep morels or any mushrooms in a brown paper sack in the produce drawer of your fridge for several days, you know, sometimes a week or even 2 weeks. Chanterelles can last a really long time, and these will last quite a while. They've dried out a little bit, which is really nice. So I'm gonna grill a steak and then I'm gonna cook these up nice and simple in a fry pan and make a little bit of a butter lemon sauce for our steak, and it's gonna be delicious, so check it out. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dice up a little bit of onion, I'm gonna slice up a little bit of garlic, and I'm gonna get my mushrooms cut up. Personally, I don't like to cut them into rings. I would like to cut the mushroom lengthwise so that you kind of can see the shape of the mushroom a little bit better. I like nice meaty chunks of the morels, so I'm gonna cut them in half and then I'm gonna kind of chop them up from there. And start with some olive oil. We're gonna add in the mushrooms right away, and we're gonna hold off on our garlic and onions for just a little while. We wanna make sure that we cook these morels really well done. And so I'm gonna let these just simmer on medium heat, just turning them. I don't want any caramelization quite yet. I just wanna get everything soft and cooking through, nice and thoroughly cooked all the way through that flesh before we start to get that golden brown on the outside. So, you know, about 5 minutes, we're just gonna move these around in the pan, just getting them nice and softened up with that extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna go in with some garlic and onions, not too much. I'm not putting all that in there, but enough to make a nice little sauce. Just gonna let that all cook. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add in a lump of sweet butter. This is salted butter. You can use unsalted butter, of course. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just gonna add in a lump of salted butter. I personally love salt, and I've just got used to cooking with salted butter, so it works good for me. I'm gonna add in a couple shots of lemon juice and a little bit of dried herbs like rosemary, thyme, and sage. After this all cooks for a while, I have this kind of butter sauce. These little bits that are starting to cook to the bottom of the pan are also flavors. So I'm gonna add in just a little bit of water to break all of those loose, to kind of make this little bit of a sauce and reduce it just a little bit further, and it's about ready to put over our steak. I'm pretty stoked about this Morel relished steak. It's just a savory flavor bomb. Overdid the steak slightly, but the morels with the butter and everything just make it so decadent. But I got my morels here. Beautiful, beautiful landscape morels. So I'm gonna turn these in to one of my favorite dishes, and that's just to make mushroom gravy to pour over rice. It's just comfort food. It's my favorite way to cook mushrooms, honestly, and especially a super savory mushroom like the morel. So I'm gonna start by browning off some pork chops, and then I'm gonna make my gravy, pour that on some rice. So morels require a lot of cooking. You just wanna make sure that they're cooked all the way through. So I'm gonna show you how I do that, and let's get started. I'm gonna start with some thin sliced pork chops. We're gonna go pepper, kosher salt, and a little bit of flour. Is gonna put just like the slightest breading on these. Just using a light olive oil here, enough to cover the bottom of the pan pretty well. All right, we're gonna put our pork chops right in. All right, I'm gonna start getting my morels ready, and tonight I'm gonna just pick the nicest ones and just kind of slice them up into nice bite-sized chunks. That's probably enough morels for what I'm doing tonight. All right, we got some diced garlic and some diced up onion or shallot. We're gonna pull these out and let them kind of rest for a minute. I poured off most of my excess oil. Now I'm gonna add in some butter because we love butter. All right, we're gonna let these morels and butter just cook for like 5 or 6 minutes before I add in the onion and garlic. All right, they've been cooking for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my garlic and my onion. I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. All right, now I'm gonna add in some flour to make a roux. Now I'm going to add in 1 cup of water to make the gravy. I'm going to make sure it's pretty thin because I'm going to put the pork chops back in here and let it reduce with the meat in the gravy. Get those pork chops back in there, and we're just gonna turn the heat up a little bit and just let this simmer down, and it's gonna make this really rich morel gravy. So good. Oh, and it's thickened up real nice. All right, you guys, time to try out this amazing morel gravy on rice. It is so good, so savory, and so hearty. This is comfort food to me. You know, I only cook mushrooms a handful of different ways, and I don't know why I need to change it. You know, mushrooms and gravy is just amazing. So, smothered pork chops with landscape morel gravy. You just can't beat this. All right, I made it home, and I have chicken of the woods right here. And I'm gonna make a recipe that I've actually never heard of anybody doing before with this mushroom. And it's to make a spicy, crispy chicken sandwich. So basically, I'm gonna take this and treat it just like chicken, but make a crispy, spicy chicken sandwich with it. So firstly, I'm gonna slice this thing up and marinate it in a little bit of pickle juice for a while. Let it absorb some of that flavor before I get to cooking. I'm gonna start out by cleaning all the dirt and wood debris and pine needles and stuff off of this chicken of the woods with a knife. Then using a little brush, I can get the needles out of the little crevices and stuff. Then I'm gonna slice this into nice 5/8 inch thick pieces, just about the thickness of a chicken breast. Then I'm gonna give it a rinse under the sink just to make sure I got all the debris and bugs off of it. Then I'm gonna layer these into a bowl and cover them with pickle juice, and I'm gonna cover it up and let it sit for at least an hour. Then I'm gonna start with some all-purpose flour and add in some garlic powder, some Cajun seasoning, some cayenne pepper for spice, some salt, and we're gonna add in some black pepper for a little more kick. Mix that all up nice. Then I'm gonna make an egg wash. This is how you bread stuff. So I crack an egg into a bowl. I'm gonna add in about 5 shots of Tabasco and what my old chef would call a handful of water. Then I'm gonna mix that all up, and that makes our egg wash. And then I'm gonna take a third bowl and put panko breadcrumbs in it. I'm gonna mix a little bit of this seasoned flour in with the panko as well to make a nice crusty breading. After about an hour, I'm going to take these chicken of the woods slabs that have soaked in pickle juice, and first I'm going to put them into the flour and make sure they're dredged really well in the flour, and this will hold this egg wash mixture to the chicken of the woods. Then I'm going to take the mushroom and I'm going to put it into the panko breadcrumbs and make sure it's nicely coated, and into some hot oil to fry nice and crispy. You don't want it too hot. I want to be able to cook this for quite a long time before it gets burned, so about medium heat is right. I'm going to take all these other little chunks and make some chicken nuggets. Once I start flipping these over, you can see how beautifully golden brown they are. I'm going to slice up some fresh tomato from my garden. At the end of summer, when the mushrooms are coming out, the tomatoes are ripe. Have some nice romaine lettuce. I'm going to butter and grill the buns, because grilled buns are the yummiest on sandwiches. As my chicken of the woods cooks for about 5 to 7 minutes, it's going to get nice and golden brown. I'm going to take it out of the pan and let it kind of drip its extra grease out. I didn't say this was going to be the healthiest recipe, but maybe one of the most delicious ones. Now it's time to build our sandwich. I'm going to take the griddled bun, put my chicken of the woods, a little Swiss cheese, fresh tomato slices, some romaine lettuce, and a little buttermilk ranch on my grilled bun. And voila, we have a beautiful, crispy chicken sandwich. And it even looks like chicken inside. It's really surprising how awesome this turned out. All right, you guys, I'm ready to try this out. The spicy, crispy chicken of the woods sandwich. Sounds pretty amazing. Let's see. It's crunchy and crispy. It's a little bit spicy. If you've seen my videos in the past, I didn't like chicken of the woods for a long time, but I'm trying some new recipes, and I really like this one too. This one's delicious. Honestly, the texture is exactly like chicken. I can't tell the difference between this and chicken. It would be interesting to do a blindfolded taste test of these side by side. This is so good. It's like a crispy chicken sandwich you would get from Wendy's or Chick-fil-A or something like that. Seriously, bon appetit. This is a great way to do it. One thing to keep in mind is to make sure that you cut it thin enough so that it'll cook thoroughly all the way through. You want it to get about 160 degrees in the middle, just like chicken. And just make sure that you cook it really well. Some people experience GI distress, so if it's your first time trying chicken of the woods, maybe try just a really small amount. You got to get a little creative, but you can cut them really thin and then cook it kind of on low heat so they can cook for a long time. I'm a huge lover of chicken sandwiches, so I was prepared to give you bad news that this wasn't that good, but I don't know, the way that I did this, it's excellent. It's absolutely amazing. So here's another idea for your chicken of the woods, and I also have some spicy chicken nuggets up there on the counter. I'm gonna try them with a little barbecue sauce and stuff, but I don't see how it could go wrong. So I got home with my lobster mushrooms and a few chanterelles, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up these lobster mushrooms. I'm gonna cut the dirt off with a knife, and then I'm just gonna spray them off with water. It's okay to wash your mushrooms And especially lobster mushrooms, I'll often just lay them out in the yard and hit them with the hose, but I can just hit them with the faucet really quick and get them nice and washed up. Just gonna cut away any of the dirt and discolored parts. And I rinse them off once. I'll set them aside and keep rinsing off all the other ones. And then when I come back after a second and that water has kind of soaked into the dirt and stuff, then they just really get clean the second rinse. I'm going to put down some paper towels and just set these out to dry for a little bit. But look how pretty those are now that they're washed up. All right, I got some nice choice specimens here. I'm gonna start getting a pan hot. I'm just gonna use a little pan. You could use a big pan for if you're gonna cook for a lot of people. I'm just cooking for myself. I'm intentionally using a smaller pan because I'm gonna cut these into little cubes and I wanna make a layer of them about 3/4 inches thick across there. And I'm just gonna keep stirring it. So I wanna get them golden brown, but I don't wanna get them too crispy. And that's one thing that can happen with lobster mushrooms is that if you cut them into thin slices and then try to brown them on each side, is they'll be like potato chip crispy, and I don't quite want that. I want a little bit of softness. I want a little bit of that softer texture rather than just really crispy bits of mushrooms, which lobster mushrooms have a tendency to turn into. So there we go. They're nicely cubed up. Pretty uniform size. And the host of this mushroom is the russula, which is known for being very crunchy. So it's a different kind of texture than your grocery store button mushroom. So I'm going to start with extra virgin olive oil, and we're just going to go right into the pan with these. And like I said, I want a nice layer of the lobster mushrooms because if there's too much room in the pan, they tend to get really crisp, almost kind of burned. It is starting to get a little bit seafoody smelling in here, and I'm just starting to get all the moisture out of these. So they are going to steam a lot of water out of the mushrooms. And if you cook eggs with lobster mushrooms, it'll turn your eggs red or purple colored, which is pretty crazy. I'm going to add in a little bit of salt, and that's really going to kind of draw the rest of the moisture out of there. And now I'm going to add in also a pretty nice sized pad of butter. I'm going to add in some fresh herbs. I have marjoram and oregano. I'm just going to add the fresh leaves right in there with the butter. All right, these are about ready to dish up. Got our nice sourdough. All right, and there we go. We've got some lobster mushroom sourdough toast. Looks pretty amazing, so I'm going to give it the official taste test. Big bite of the mushrooms on that. So good. When cooked like this, they kind of have the consistency of fried potatoes. They definitely remind me of potatoes because they just have a nice crunch to them. This is amazing. If you were to serve these on crostinis to your guests, everybody's mind's gonna get blown. Look at these pristine matsutake. I got them home. I just kind of sprayed them off in the sink. No different than the heavy rain that's been happening all day. And I'm ready to prepare them in a couple of different ways. All right, we're gonna start with just a little bit of rice vinegar. About a 1/4 cup of rice vinegar. Put in a few tablespoons of oyster sauce. About a tablespoon of garlic, because I love garlic. We're gonna put in a couple tablespoons of soy sauce. About a tablespoon of red pepper flakes, I like it spicy. And a few shots of toasted sesame oil. I'm gonna whisk all of this together. I'm gonna take this nice matsutake and I'm gonna cut this sandy little base off. They have a nice squeak when you cut them. Make sure you get all the sand and grit off of it, and some nice slices, a little thicker than a 1/4 inch. go, nice slices of matsutake. They're gonna go right into our marinade. And let them soak for a while, maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes. You could leave them in longer, but I don't want to mask too much of the matsutake flavor. And this is a really traditional way to do it. You just wash some white rice. I'm going to take this pristine #1 matsutake button. I'm going to slice this real nice and thin. And now I'm going to just layer it onto my rice. Very simple. I use some filtered water and I fill it up to the #1 line. And hit start. That's about as simple as that gets. I'll put a little bit of foil on a pan. And then we can lay our mushroom pieces out on here. Throw these under the broiler. I'm just going to take the rest of my marinade and I'm going to go ahead and put it on heat and let it reduce down into a sauce. I'm also going to sear some nice top sirloins to go with my dinner tonight. It's hard to explain how good it smells in this kitchen right now. It smells so good in such a short period of time. That sweet, sticky matsutake pepper sesame sauce smells so good. Here's your super traditional matsutake rice. Here's our sauce. Nice piece of steak. I'm going to put some of the steak drippings right onto the mushrooms. Just a touch of soy sauce to our rice and matsutake. All right, here goes nothing. We're going to try out the rice first with the steamed matsutake. So good. It puts like a lot of aromatic flavor into the rice. So all of the rice tastes like matsutake. So delicious. I try not to overdo it. It can get a little bit overwhelming if you put too many mushrooms in. So I like just a little bit and then just simple with soy sauce. So good. The mushrooms themselves have a really nice bite to them. They have a really great texture, almost squeaky when you bite them. That's really excellent. And let's try some of our marinated matsutake. Ooh, they already have a sweet thing going on. Ooh, and those are pretty spicy, but the sesame lends so well to it. It's just an explosion of sweet, hot, mushroomy goodness. Oh my gosh. Seriously, this is like one of the best mushroom dishes I've had in a while, is making this marinade and then getting that nice char on them. It's just sweetness and caramelization and spiciness from that sauce. So good. And then of course, I'm going to try a little bit of the steak with the matsutake marinade. How could you go wrong? All right, so y'all saw it here. This is like one of the best ways to cook matsutake. Well, a couple of the best ways, either steamed on rice with soy sauce, really simple, or a spicy sweet marinade and then served with steak. How could you go wrong? Here's the haul for the day. A lot of morels there, but I'm gonna get these Agaricus Augustus out from underneath all these morels. Here's our Agaricus Augustus. I'm gonna rinse them off really quick.
Frick is going on here?
Here you go, whoever. Oh.
This is Nina, my new friend.
Hi.
We were mushroom picking, and she's making, these are pot roast empanadas.
Hot roast empanadas with morels, potatoes, and caramelized onions.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at all that she's already made.
These are done? Yeah. So this one just has morels.
All right.
No
No chanterelles. All right, perfect. Yeah. I'll eat 2 of those.
Good.
Yeah, Dutch oven risotto turned out pretty nice.
Take a picture of the two.
I want John to be the official taste tester.
Not very good.
Not bad.
Yeah, pears with the citron.
Look at this. We got some kind of mushrooms. We got asparagus and morel pasta, salmon, empanadas, salads. Oh, some charred vegetables.
This particular Spring King looks about the right size for 2 people. This is another one in beautiful shape. And what I've done is I've brushed the cap off with a little brush. And we could think the sponge is is probably young enough we could leave it or take it off. Now on there, if we were going to cook this one, we would take the sponge off, but I always save the sponge and dry it. In this one, I would just cut the bad parts out and slice and dry that whole mushroom. I wouldn't try and cook it, but these 3 are potential for things to cook directly versus dry.
And that one you got is a prime.
Yeah, and it's also given that there's 2 of us. It looks good, and I think just for now we'll leave the sponge on, and then I like to get rid of the bites. This is probably could have been a squirrel. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Perfect, Brett. And so you taking off the bug slobber and stuff, huh?
Well, I'm taking off the mammal slobber.
Okay. You think a deer or something might have nibbled it a little bit?
Well, a deer or a white-footed deer mouse or a wide range of things. Or a little squirrel. All of those are possible. And then I like to trim the edge. You don't lose much meat if you trim it off, but you get rid of a lot of dirt. And so we didn't wash this thing. I would normally wash it in water. And I don't worry about getting water on my mushroom. It'll cook off.
Little rinse.
A little rinse. Once I've done that, we'll just polish it with a little bit of a paper. And this is what I often do, is with a little bit of a paper towel. I like to cut the stipe off, this or stem. Very nice. There's a few bug holes, but that'll just add a little bit of protein to our dinner. Whatever we're going to be eating was born and raised in this mushroom, so there's nothing that we don't want here. So
they've just been eating porcini, so
if it's discolored badly, I'll get rid of the discolored stuff. That looks a little bit spoiled to me.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to eat spoiled mushrooms, right?
I don't want to eat spoiled mushrooms.
That's a lot of the cases of poisoning, is that correct? A lot of times it's just spoiled mushrooms.
Well, that and undercooking.
Okay. And you got to cook porcini pretty well, or I've seen it served raw before. What do you think of that?
I eat it raw sometimes.
Yeah?
If it's a real prime young one.
Yeah.
And then we'll put a little oil in the pan, And the amount that I'm going to slice, oop, it's more than I meant.
I know, it comes out of there fast.
It'll be
Turn
good.
your heat back on.
Yeah, turn the heat back on a little bit. But we're just going to... Now, the amount that we put in for this kind of cooking is very critical. I want about 50% more than enough to just cover the bottom of the pan, because they'll shrink, but I want to finish them to a nice golden brown. So we may not use all of this mushroom we picked, and that's why I didn't do the biggest one. I'm going to leave that sponge on because it's still relatively young. If it was a little greener, I would take it off. But this should still taste quite nice.
Do you think that when the sponge gets old, it's not as tasty?
Yeah, but that sponge then makes a good flavorful addition after you've dried it and then ground it, and you use it in a spice. But the trick here now is don't overcrowd the pan, because we want to be able to get all of these nicely browned.
That caramelization, huh? We're gonna...
Yeah, it's called the Maillard reaction, and there's actually a protein that combines with a sugar, and it makes the mushroom actually a lot more healthy for you, as well as adding a wonderful umami flavor. So that's about as full as I want the pan.
Okay.
Now, if I wanted to cook these 3 mushrooms,
Yeah.
I would have chopped them fine into little cubes and filled the pan completely full and added about a third as much chopped onion or chives, and that's called duxelles. And then I would cook it till it will give off a whole bunch of liquid. In fact, I'll often add a cup of water. And when that boils down, then I'll take a nice dry white wine or a sake and add just enough to cover the mushrooms and cook that down. And when it's fully reduced, and the alcohol will be gone,
Yeah.
and then you put that on your piece of toast, put cheese on top, put it under the broiler and melt it. And it's divine. And then whatever you don't eat, you put in ice cube trays and freeze. And then you take 1 or 2 cubes per person later on, and you can do the same thing over toast with melted cheese, or you can put it in an omelet. You're making a stew, you put some duxelles in your stew.
Oh man,
But
everywhere.
they're all cooked, they're all ready to go. And the nice thing about duxelles is if I didn't want to spend a lot of time cooking these this way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of time consuming to get it just right and get it tasty. I make duxelles. Because then I can cook it all in the same time that I could make just a little snack for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll grind some nice Himalayan salt on there.
I got Dr. Bug here doing a cooking demo with Spring Kings. How cool is this?
And some people put pepper, but I like the purity of just salt.
Yeah.
But it really is important to get a nice browning on both sides.
And so you're a big fan of dry fry, like the dry saute, right? With wet mushrooms like chanterelles and stuff.
Well, yeah, and
same reason, right? It's just going to be slimy mushrooms if you just pile in a bunch of wet chanterelles.
And often I will add water and boil it off, because that then thoroughly cooks the mushroom. And especially if I'm going to cook morels.
Yeah.
I slice the morels and I put enough water in to cover the morels, because undercooked morels might give you a stomach upset, and if you drink alcohol, might get you a bad reaction to alcohol. But if you add the water and thoroughly cook them and then lightly brown them afterwards, you know you've gotten rid of all of the neurotoxins.
Nice.
And you can drink alcohol if you want, and you're not going to get sick unless you're allergic. Now, see, I like the ones in the middle that got a little more heat to. That's the color I want.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the looks of that.
Yeah, we'll get the heat on that side. Maybe slide the pan back.
I'm going to move the pan back, yep. Good point.
Porcini is pretty medicinal as well, huh?
Yeah, it's probably 10 times as good for you as an agaricus.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It's one of the best medicinal mushrooms. One of the best things just to be eating.
Yeah. So not just protein and
Not
flavor.
just protein. It's
and-
high in beta-D-glucans, but it's also high in arabuthiamine, and both of those things are very important at having both of those high.
And mushrooms are good for you, right? For a long time, people thought they have no nutritional value, or they're not good for you.
Well, they have no nutritional value because they're not fattening.
Mm-hmm.
They're high in protein, and they're very high in minerals, and you'll live on average 2 or 3 years longer. You'll have 50% reduced probability of Alzheimer's. You'll have about a 75% reduced probability of getting Lou Gehrig's disease.
Wow.
If you eat mushrooms at least 3 days a week. But we notice that feature more often in Asian populations than in American. But the difference is Americans are primarily eating agaricus and often eating them raw.
Mm-hmm.
And especially raw agaricus actually is carcinogenic a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is, as these pieces get nicely browned on both sides, we'll take them off in stages here and move others farther to the center that didn't. Okay, it looks like we are done now. Curious.
All right, that thing is loaded with Bolita Rex Varus.
Yeah.
So yeah, cheers. This is
Cheers.
awesome. They are firm.
Not slimy.
Oh, it's good. You don't need to do anything fancy with these mushrooms, you know?
The less the better. The flavor is so delicate, but it disappears when you mix it, put it in a dish.
Yeah, it's true.
I put it in a dish for nutritional reasons, but when I want a real treat, this is what I like to do.